Alright, so today we're going to review this Canon EF-S 55-250mm image stabilized lens right here. And I got this lens probably about 9 or so months ago when I got into photography, or actually I got it a little bit after I got into photography. And yeah, I just thought I would do a little review on it to help you figure out if this is the lens that you should buy. So yeah, let's get started. So first off, let's go over the specs of this lens and how it's built. Obviously, it is a 55mm to 250mm lens, which if you're using this on a full frame sensor, that is the focal length that it will be. But if you're like me and you use this on a APS-C size sensor or a crop sensor, I believe this is right around a 300 to 400mm lens. I will do the conversion to make sure though. Okay, so yes, if you use this on a APS-C size sensor or a crop sensor, this lens will be an 88 to 408mm lens. So that is a lot of zoom. But the aperture on this lens is one of the few downsides to it. Its aperture is 4 to 5.6. It's 4 at 55mm, and then it slowly goes up to 5.6 as you zoom in. Which the aperture isn't ideal, but really for the price of this lens, it is pretty good. You can't really complain because if you wanted this lens, like same focal length, but with like an aperture of 2.8 and it's continuous, you're looking at a pretty hefty price tag. It'd probably run $3 or something like that. But for the price of this lens, I mean, you can't really complain about the aperture. And now this lens is also stabilized, which is just awesome. Before I got this lens, I was using my grandma's old telephoto lens, which wasn't stabilized. And man, I'll tell you what, image stabilization is just a must on telephoto lenses. But this does have 2 switches on the side, by the way. One for manual focus, and right here is your manual focus ring. And then we have a switch to turn image stabilization off if you want to, which I've never used that switch because it's just, image stabilization is just awesome. So yeah, one more thing for the specs, the autofocus motor in here is an STM motor or a step motor, and it's just unbelievably quiet. I cannot believe how quiet the autofocus motor in this is. I'm easily able to use this for video when you cannot hear the autofocus motor, which is just extremely impressive, and it focuses super quickly. Like it racks focus extremely fast, so that is really cool too. And now for the build quality of this lens, it's not bad. I mean, it's an all plastic lens with a rubber grip right here for the zooming feature, you know what I'm saying? But it's an all plastic lens, but it's not a cheap feeling lens by any means. It's a nice feeling plastic, you know? Like there's a difference between cheap plastic and good plastic, you know? Cheap plastic, it's thin, chintzy, just not good at all plastic, but this feels good, you know what I'm saying? And one of the other few downsides to this lens is that it has a plastic mount on the back, which isn't a huge downside really, just I mean, metal's better, you know? So it's always nice to have a metal mount on a lens, but it's not a big deal and certainly not a deal breaker for this lens. But in terms of how sharp of photos this lens will take, it takes very sharp photos, especially for it being a telephoto lens zoomed all the way in. We're getting nice sharp photos. And here, I'll pop a few photos up on screen that I've taken with this lens. And yeah, overall, it just takes awesome photos. I mainly use this lens for wildlife photography. That's my main use for it, like taking pictures of birds, animals, deer. But I've also gotten some nice pictures of the Mackinac Bridge with it too. And yeah, overall, it's an awesome lens, awesome pickup, an awesome starter telephoto lens. As I said, lenses do get a lot better than this, but for the price, you can't really beat this because, I mean, high-end telephoto lenses are absurdly expensive. So yeah, but yeah, it's an awesome lens, and I appreciate you watching all the way through this video. And if it was helpful, then drop a like down below, or the like button might be up here as well. It helps tell Amazon that this is a good video. And yeah, appreciate you watching, and take it easy.